In modern life, many of us are trapped in the trap of I, emotions, ego, and attachment to fame or praise from others. We feel happy when praised, deeply hurt when criticized. But does true happiness lie in pleasing the ego? Buddhism teaches that true liberation does not come from avoiding things that make us suffer, but from letting go of all attachments of the ego to find inner peace. This lesson will be a journey with you to understand and let go, to achieve peace of mind. I is the source of all suffering in life. When we cling to what we consider me or mine, we become sensitive to criticism and vulnerable to the words of others. We chase after short-lived feelings of joy or pain, not realizing that this attachment is what binds our souls. When I first started my career, I was always looking for validation from others. Even the slightest criticism would make me feel insecure and lose sleep. But over time, as I learned to meditate and reflect, I realized that I cannot control what other people think. I can only control how I react. When I let go of the need for validation from others, I found true peace. A famous, highly respected scholar was once insulted at a conference. Instead of getting angry, he just smiled and walked away. When asked, he replied, "The insults do not belong to me, but to the person who said them. Only I can decide whether they hurt me or not." We often think of happiness as a destination, something far away that we have to pursue. But according to Buddhism, happiness is a process of living in each moment. When we let go of things we cannot change and find peace in simple things, happiness will come naturally. A woman who sells vegetables always keeps a smile on her face, despite the uncertainties of life. When asked why, she replied, "Happiness is not in what I own, but in how I feel about what I have." That answer reminds me that happiness is not in possessions, but in how I perceive life. In life, there will be people who hurt us. There will be things that make us sad. Many people choose to hold on to resentment, thinking that it is a way to get revenge or protect themselves. But Buddha taught that only forgiveness can truly bring us freedom. I was betrayed by a close friend. During those days, I felt like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. But when I decided to forgive, I felt lighter. Forgiving is not because the other person deserves it, but because I need peace. A famous Zen master once told a story about two friends arguing on the riverbank. One slapped the other, but the other just smiled and wrote in the sand, "Today, my friend hurt me." The next day, when the friend saved the other from drowning, he wrote on a stone, "Today, my friend saved my life." When asked why, the friend said, "The things that hurt me, I write in the sand for the winds to blow away. The good things, I carve in stone to remember forever." Life is not a series of continuous successes. Everyone stumbles, but what is important is what we learn from those failures. Failure is not the end, but an opportunity for us to practice resilience and become more mature. I know a friend who started a business and failed 3 times, losing all his assets. But he did not give up. Through each failure, he learned new lessons and became stronger. In the end, he succeeded brilliantly thanks to his patience and not giving up. Life is like a football match. Even the best player will miss the ball sometimes. What matters is not how many times we fall, but whether we dare to stand up and continue walking. Time is a precious gift that no one can get back when it passes. Many people only realize the value of time when it is too late. We cannot control time, but we can choose to live each moment to the fullest. Instead of waiting for a day to live fully, start now. Spend time with the people you love, do the things you are passionate about, and live each day as if it were your last. Life is a journey in which we need to learn to love, let go, and live each moment to the fullest. Liberation does not come from avoiding reality, but from accepting and letting go of all attachments. Love yourself, live for meaningful things, and forgive yourself and others. When you do that, you will truly feel deep peace in your soul. When we begin to look at life and the relationships around us with an open mind, we will realize that expectations are one of the causes of suffering. We expect others to treat us the way we want, and when that doesn't happen, we feel disappointed and hurt. Buddha taught that if we don't have expectations, we won't have to suffer disappointment. Letting go of expectations doesn't mean a lack of love, but an understanding that everything is impermanent and beyond our control. I used to expect a lot from the people around me. I wanted them to understand me, to love me in the way I thought was right. But after being disappointed, I realized that everyone has their own life, their own worries and concerns. When I no longer expected others, I felt lighter and happier because I no longer put a burden on them and on myself. There was a mother who always expected her child to become a good doctor. However, her son chose the path of art. At first, she was very sad and could not accept it. But then she realized that everyone has their own path. When she stopped expecting her son to live the way she wanted, they were able to understand each other and love each other more. Happiness is not living according to other people's expectations, but living according to your own way. Tolerance is one of the most important virtues taught by Buddha. When we are tolerant, we not only help others, but also help ourselves to be free from worries, resentments, or sorrows. Tolerance is not about ignoring mistakes, but about how we perceive and forgive others when they are not perfect. When we let go of these sorrows, our souls will be calm and peaceful. We often feel upset when someone disappoints us, but instead of holding on to anger, if we try to think that everyone has their own circumstances and no one is perfect, we will feel lighter. Once, I had the opportunity to help an old friend overcome a difficult life situation. When he showed gratitude and appreciation, I realized that forgiveness brings peace to both the giver and the receiver. Forgiveness is not just about giving, but about how we open our hearts and receive others. Life does not always go according to our plans. Relationships can break up, jobs can go awry, and sometimes we are faced with change that we cannot control. But the Buddha taught that in order to live a peaceful life, we need to learn to let go of the things we cannot change. When we learn to let go, we will experience true freedom. Freedom from expectations, freedom from anxiety about the future, or freedom from regrets about the past. Whenever I face a challenge in life, I often ask myself, is this something I can change? If the answer is no, I learn to let go and accept change as part of life. This doesn't mean not trying, but learning to live in the present without being tied to the past or worried about the future. There is a story about a monk who had been practicing for many years. One day, he saw an old friend struggling with a big problem in his life. The friend asked him, "Why do I worry so much? Things never seem to go my way." The monk calmly replied, "If you keep holding a stone in your hand will ache and become tired. Put it down, and you will no longer feel heavy. Only when we let go of our worries can we truly find peace." Altruism is a precious quality that Buddhism encourages everyone to develop. When we live for others, when we help others, we not only bring happiness to them, but also increase our own joy. True happiness is not about receiving, but about giving without expecting anything in return. It is in the process of giving that we receive so much in return, from the gratitude of others, from the feeling of peace in our souls. I remember once helping a homeless person by giving them some money and food. Although it was not a big act, their grateful look made me feel complete and warm. It is when we share that we feel true joy from our own hearts. At the end of my journey to find liberation, I realized that happiness is not a destination, but a way of life. It is living a real life, living in a way that makes us feel peaceful, calm, and free. To do that, we need to learn to let go, forgive, be tolerant, and love. When we live for others, without forgetting to take care of ourselves, when we understand that each person has their own story, we will no longer worry or be insecure. In the end, we are the ones who create our own happiness. One of the most important things to achieve liberation is self-awareness. When we perceive ourselves correctly, understand the deep aspects of our inner self, we will realize that we are the only one who can solve all the problems in life. Self-awareness is not about accepting everything about ourselves without changing, but clearly recognizing our strengths and weaknesses from which we know how to improve and develop. In the past, I often spent a lot of time looking at other people's successes and felt inadequate. But when I started practicing meditation and contemplation, I realized that everyone has their own path. I don't need to compare myself to anyone. As the saying goes, when you understand yourself, you will understand the world. When we clearly perceive ourselves, we can act autonomously, not dependent on external factors. There was a man who spent his whole life searching for happiness. He traveled everywhere, looking for everything that could bring him joy. However, after going through many trials and failures, he realized that happiness is not something that can be found anywhere but within himself. True happiness is inner peace, and when he decided to return and take care of his soul, he found true peace. One of the most important lessons in Buddhism is the acceptance of impermanence. Everything in life changes, from relationships to work to ourselves. Impermanence does not mean that life is a series of meaningless events, but rather a reminder that everything will pass, and change is the nature of life. I used to be very afraid of change. Every time something big happened in my life, I felt confused and insecure. However, over time, I learned that change is not an enemy, but a companion on the journey of life. When I accepted impermanence, I no longer feared the changes in life, but knew that everything would pass and that the ego would no longer be an obstacle to growth. Once, a Zen master stood before a large dark cloud. When everyone around was worried that it was going to rain, the Zen master just smiled and said, "The dark clouds will pass, and then there will be sunshine." He wanted to teach us that all difficulties, sadness, and challenges in life are temporary moments. When we accept impermanence, we will live much more peacefully. Most of us live with worries about the future or regrets about the past. However, Buddha taught that if we keep looking back at the past or fearing the future, we will miss opportunities to live fully in the present. Living in the present is an art that everyone needs to learn. It is knowing how to appreciate every moment we have, not because of what will come, but because we can live truly and fully in this moment. I used to be someone who always thought too much about the future, worried about work, relationships, and things that had not happened yet. But when I started focusing on the present, I found that my life became more meaningful. I started enjoying every moment, from drinking a cup of coffee to chatting with friends. That's when I found peace. A Zen master told of a young student who was always worried about the future. He couldn't live peacefully because of worries about things that had not yet happened. The Zen master taught him that if you just live each day to the fullest, the future will come naturally. And when the student started living each moment to the fullest, he felt lighter and happier than ever. Nothing can make our souls happier than when we live for others, doing good deeds without expecting anything in return. Sometimes small actions have great meaning, because it is in the moments of giving that we receive true happiness. Think about helping a friend who is in trouble. A word of encouragement, a sharing can help them overcome challenges in life. Although you do not receive anything from them immediately, the joy in your heart will be the greatest reward. That is how we find happiness in acts of kindness. Through this journey, we realize that liberation is not about running away from reality, but knowing how to live in the present, accepting impermanence, and learning to love ourselves. Happiness is not something we seek outside, but the result of living with sincerity and tolerance. When we let go of unnecessary things, we will find peace in our souls, and that is liberation.